comes down to you're 17 years old. Are you capable of making a $250,000 decision? That's either yes or no, or kind of. Then the question becomes, who's surrounding you in your life that's helping you make that decision?
Right.
Well, let's just talk about it. You're 17. You got mom and dad, or maybe just mom, or maybe just dad. Maybe you got an aunt or uncle. You got some family support that looks different by kid. You probably got a high school guidance counselor, maybe a teacher or two. And then how much deeper does it go than that? Maybe some friends, what your buddies are doing, what their families are doing. How does it all kind of collide? But I'm going to venture to say, at least I can speak, I had a great family unit, great family support structure. At 17 years old, no one kid is capable of making a $250,000 decision, especially when it's fueled by debt, I think. And do you agree? Or
I would say that's a pretty...
I think it's safe.
That's a very safe and fair statement.
I'm going to also say, I think the guidance counselors, they've got a tough job. I don't know what the ratio of students to guidance counselors are, but what do you think it is? Maybe 1 to every 70 a guidance counselor's got to manage? They don't have 50 guidance counselors in a high school.
It's significant.
They might have 3 or 4 for a class, a school size that's different, but it might be 300 kids, 3-4 guidance counselors, something like that.
Well, the schools we were at for the career days, the biggest school we went to, they've got what, a 1,800 student matriculation.
Huge schools.
That's massive.
So let's just give the guidance counselor. None of them are bad people. They're all in it because they want to help kids.
Sure,
God bless them, right? But when you've got that number of kids, I can assure you they're not sitting down with a spreadsheet trying to evaluate the pros and cons and how do you build a budget 4 years from now when you're graduating with $40,000 of debt and your payment is X and all your expenses are here and you're going to graduate. They're not going through that rigorous financial analysis. And then mom or dad, let's be honest, maybe they're helping them or maybe they're part of the problem. And because I went to college, I'm going to force that on my kid because I see no other method other than saying you got to have a college degree. This is 50, 60 years of, I hate to use the word indoctrination, that college is your best path, but we got a little bit of that going on. So if you've got a bias among parents that college is the path, guidance counselors, college is the path, 17-year-old kid with an underdeveloped mind, ability to evaluate a $250,000 decision, if we put that in a fat category, you've got these kids marching into that cycle here.
Learning financial responsibility is something that's not going to be left to them just by themselves.
Well, but
the idea here is they've got a full-time job. That's the first step towards getting.
The first step is you're not going to dig yourself a $100,000 hole.
So that's true.
We all start at zero in life,
right.
Most of us, right? And then we make a personal choice to go into $100,000 of debt or $50,000 of debt. Every kid is different.
Yep.
We make that choice to do that or not. So if you're in Brick by Brick, you're not making that choice. We're not going to let you go into debt. You got $5,000 for the education. We'll figure out how to fund that for you in partnership with you. You got to have some skin in the game too.
Sure.
But you're not going to go into a hole right off the bat for something that you can get for free. Now believe it or not, that's a tough sell. You know, I put 100 parents in a room. I think 90 of them will disagree with me because it's not conventional. Well, first step is don't go in a hole. Second step is earn money day one. $500, $600, $700. Get a paycheck coming in. But then, your mentorship, you mentioned your dad with the financial plan. Talk a little bit about that. What did that entail?
Well, part of this was when I worked, there was a reason for me to work. There was a goal that I had to go for. I had to pay for college. And that's a pretty substantial goal. And I started working when I was 14 years old and started bringing in not a bad wage. And I worked I worked whenever the available time was there. It was spring break, Christmas vacation, Easter vacation, you name it.
What'd you do with your money?
Summer vacation. Well, my father took the money. Okay.
Interesting.
He took the money, but he explained to me. He said, "Look, here's where it's going. Here's how much you've accumulated. I always knew how much I had." And, he'd spot me at 20 here, 20 there if I wanted to take my girlfriend out for, go to a movie or something. But he was very careful that I was not responsible for my money at the tender age of 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Now, that started to loosen up as I was getting towards graduation from high school. But one of the things we always talked about, because he drove me to school, so we had that 30 minutes in the car every day. We had the occasionally, at night we'd be talking about this kind of stuff. But he would bring me down. He'd show me all these. This is where I'm putting your money. Okay, we didn't just put it in a savings account. He had it invested in several different things. And again, you got to remember, this is the '60s. That was almost unheard of in the '60s. But the
30 minutes a day. What was that again?
Well, we're in the car 30 minutes a day. Now, we're talking about the 76ers. We're talking about the Eagles. We're talking about the Colts. But we're also talking about money. Okay, what are you doing Saturday? Well, I'm going to be working down at J.E. Rhodes and Sons. I'm going to be working in the the maintenance department. They're going to squeeze me in for 8 hours on Saturday. Great. What else was I going to do? By the end of the week, I was done my studies. I didn't have anything. Every once in a while I had stuff to do on the weekends, but I was working weekends. I was working vacations.
What was your learning experience? So you're working those jobs,
right?
Variety of jobs. Compare what you learned there to college, and they're different, right? One's theoretical and one's real world.
I did both, so it's a fair question. The job required a certain amount of self-responsibility. You had to show up on time. You had a certain job that you had to do every day. Your boss told you what you had to do. You were expected to get that done within a certain specific period of time. You had, again, goals that were set for you when you showed up that morning for work. And
there was consequences if you didn't do it.
Oh, yeah, of course there were consequences. And back then the consequences were, if you proved yourself to be a good employee but you had a bad day, okay, the consequences were your boss would bring you and say, what the hell happened over here? We showed you what to do. What happened? Why didn't you get this done? And there was whatever. Fortunately, I didn't have too many of those. Comparing that to college, when I got to school, when I got to the University of Delaware, my freshman year, I was scared. I was intimidated. I didn't, it was my first time away from home. I was living on campus. I had a roommate that I knew through high school, so that kind of helped. But all those same things came into play. You have a goal. The goal is you got to pass this damn course. And in fact, back then you had to pass 5 of them. All right. You have a test next week. You've got pop quizzes that could come up. You've got papers that need to be written. You've got to read this. You've got to go to Morris Library and research this. That's going on all day long. It goes back to it kind of reminds me a little bit of the blog, my only blog, the and then blog. You get this done, and then you got to go do this, and then you got to go do this. I don't think if I had the discipline that was taught to me, and the goal setting that was taught to me, because I had a real job when I was in high school, don't know that would have been so easy as a freshman year.
Is it fair to say you'd have half the picture?
I'd say that's more than fair. I'd say that's right on the money.
You got the beauty of a boss that's attached to a paycheck.
Correct.
You're piling that up. And in your case, you were giving it to your dad for a future goal. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
And you've got the University of Delaware. You're learning that discipline. They're both important, aren't they?
They're both important. And let's not forget, I'm going to the school that I'm paying for. Okay.
So you got skin in the game.
It's more than skin in the game.
You got the whole body in the game.
If I screw up, it's all those years and all that money that I accumulated that I'm throwing down the drain. This is very much akin to the Brick by Brick program. You've got skin in the game. You're working every day. Okay.